2-minute drill time Friday morning at 105.5 WDHA. It's Jim Monaghan with Chris Swendeman as per usual. Swendy, the All-Star game in the rearview mirror, but the stench of those uniforms, wow, they were bad.
How ugly were these things, Jim? I mean, I know they were going for Southwest colors in quotations. I think they came out with Southworst. The American League, the colors, they looked like they got them off a pancake box. And the National League, it looks like they had a colorblind designer mix colors, throw it against the wall, and that's what they picked. They were just horrific.
It was one of those things across social media. It didn't matter how old you were, how young you were, male, female, whatever. No one liked this. And Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, has already said, I hear you. We're going to get something taken care of with regard to this. So thankfully, he's listening to the fans on this one.
How crazy is that concept for once, right?
Speaking of bad uniforms, as I'm watching them, the high school team that I coach, the kids picked uniforms. They had a couple of different options this year. Chris, they went with all orange shirt and bottom.
Wow.
And it was a bad look. It was so bad that they wore them once.
Color me shocked.
Yeah, it was bad. Anyway, let's move on. I want to do a speed round with you this morning. I'm going to throw a couple of topics out there. You tell me what comes to mind. Let's start with the Yankees. Obviously, they're buyers as we go into the trade deadline, which is just 11 days away. But let me ask you this. Ben Rice, is he starting first baseman down the stretch?
Absolutely, yes. Stud.
DJ LeMahieu, is he still with the team down the stretch? Do they release him?
On the bench.
On the bench. So they keep him, but they
keep him,
okay.
But they don't start him.
They've got some holes in the pitching. What's the bigger hole they have to fill? Starting or relieving?
Starting.
Where do you think they go for a starter?
Maybe Chicago White Sox in Garrett Crochet is a really interesting piece. Maybe a National League team that's going to be selling, maybe a Florida Marlins. They look to one of their starters. One of those teams that are definitely out of it and sellers, they'll be the ones the Yankees are probably going to look to hook up with. Maybe even like an Anaheim Angels.
Let's go to Queens. Mets, buyers or sellers?
Buyers.
They've had a really nice turnaround. They really have. Now, that said, what do you do with Alonso?
You keep him.
You do.
Absolutely. You let it run its course. You play for this year. You can't worry about the offseason. Keep him. He's your biggest player. You don't get to the playoffs without him.
Even if he might be the piece that you need to let go to get the much needed bullpen help that they know, they need.
They definitely do. I agree with you on that, but you keep him anyway.
All right, and that's the 2-minute drill for another Friday morning. We come up to the trade deadline in 11 days, so keep your eyes on that. Thanks, Swendeman. We'll talk again next week.
You got it. Have a great weekend, Jim. Enjoy.